Hi, I'm William Malik, and this is a bit of security for the 23rd of March, 2026. I'm going to discuss some thoughts on where AI can help and where it cannot. And I have a couple of questions for those thinking about applying AI to novel problems that might help you more productively use your time. As our experience with AI tools grows, we're beginning to see where it can be useful. Um, by the way, these remarks were initially presented last week at the Higher Education on Trial event developed by the Cape Higher Education Consortium and the Western Cape government in South Africa. AI has been around for almost 70 years. The first conference discussing artificial intelligence started on June 18th, 1956 in Dartmouth, New Hampshire. It took 10 weeks to get that thing going. Over the next 20 years, we made significant progress in a number of areas. We had chess playing machines, we had visual field recognition, we had language processing, and we had foundational concepts for manipulating objects, all of which still directly impact what we're doing today. For instance, agentic AI makes use of multiple agents, semi-autonomous programs that collaborate in order to more rapidly reach a solution to a particular problem. This is an outgrowth of what was called min-max optimization, the architecture that powered the initial chess playing machines and which guided the architecture of the AlphaGo product from Google DeepMind. Augmented reality takes a look at the visual field and then supplements it by adding additional information and by trying to simplify it. For instance, robotically assisted surgery makes the job of the surgeon easier in a couple of ways. First of all, you don't have to get your hands in there, and so you've got smaller incision. But more importantly, when you're working on something in a human being, if they're doing okay, they're going to be breathing and the heart's going to be beating, which means if you're doing surgery, that abdomen is going to be rising and falling as the diaphragm moves. There's going to be the pulse of a heartbeat. And what the AI can do here is it can null those out. So the surgeon sees a still field, and the AI moves the blade to compensate directly for the inherent motions of that area. In other words, simplified. The benefits are surgery is more rapid, there's less tissue damage, it's more accurate, there's less pain, more rapid healing. We can teach AI to analyze any well-documented process, and we can guide it by tuning that process. However, AI by itself can't figure out which elements of a process are the most important and which are not. The skilled practitioner has to develop the prompts that can then train the AI agents. An unskilled practitioner cannot. If you try to use a robotic surgical assistant to remove your neighbor's appendix, you will mess them up. AI can sort through a large amount of relevant data and determine which mostly closely meets some well-defined criteria. However, AI cannot look at a large mass of data and determine which elements are the most relevant. A skilled practitioner has to do that. Consider a computer-aided design tool like SolidWorks or Autodesk. If you give a skilled architect, person who designs buildings, a CAD tool, he or she's going to be vastly more productive. They're going to deliver drawings very rapidly because the process of building the drawing won't get in the way of their fundamental understanding of what needs to be done. However, if you give a CAD tool to the neighborhood handyman, they're going to give you some pretty drawings, but the toilet is still going to block the shower door. AI works well in domains that are, in a sense, bounded, where you want to pick the largest or the most common or the most typical element of a set of somewhat related elements. AI tend to work poorly in domains that are unbounded. So AI can play chess better than any human. AI can play Go better than any human. But AI can't develop a game that is better than chess or better than Go. We need to come up with a more deep categorization of the classes of problems that AI can solve and those that it may have more trouble with. If you're working in a domain that has well-defined metrics and is clearly bounded, AI is going to help. However, if those aren't there, Be very cautious about the results that an AI tool gives you. It'll come up with something, it just may not be helpful. AI cannot make you smarter than you are. That's the first bottom line. The second is AI cannot help you see things that you can't see. And when it comes to artificial general intelligence, suppose someone walked into the room right now and began speaking in a language that nobody in the room understood. What would you have to do to convince yourselves that that individual was smarter than anybody else in the room? Or would you simply say, this is nonsense? In other words, any intelligence that is significantly more powerful than a human mind would be imperceptible. And that's our bit of security for March 23rd, 2026. I'm William Malik. Be safe out there.